about your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. 2 new trustees at YSU Foundation. The Youngstown State University Foundation adds Alexa Sweeney Blacken and Kevin Helmick to the foundation's board of trustees. The 3-year term with the nonprofit began May 22nd. That's story number 1 made in this week. Story number 2. Canfield adjust police union contract. Canfield approved an amended contract between the city and the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association in an attempt to attract strong police officer candidates. Now, the contract allows for lateral hiring, giving service credit earned for prior years for different departments. Now, the amended contract also allows officers to be hired at the rate paid to a 4-year officer, according to a report published by J.T. Whitehouse of the Vindicator on June 10th. The story is still developing. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. The medical story seeping into Mercy Health. Anthem is caught up in a dispute that will not allow managed Medicaid members to be eligible for the in-network payments. Now, the dispute involving Mercy Health arose over the rising cost of labor, drugs, and medical supplies. Now, Mercy Health has gone on the record trying to renegotiate the contract for the past 9 months, according to the company's healthcare operator. Now, Modern Healthcare states that Anthem reported earnings of $2.8 billion in the first quarter of this year, with a 16.6% yearly increase. This story is still developing as contract talks continue. This report was published June 9th by Haley Roginski, a staff writer at The Vindicator. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Is Boardman delivering on its flooding solution? $1 million in Federal American Rescue Plan money is headed to Boardman, according to a local report published by The Vindicator on June 13th. The money will be used to combat flooding with the implementation of the Forest Lawn Stormwater Park project. Now, according to the report, the promise is to mitigate chronic flooding problems. Story number 5. More improvement money being rationed out. $3 million is the number to restore the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport. Youngstown's Design Review Committee approves exterior improvements. This is what they approved of: exterior improvements to 3 businesses and a church allotted from a Youngstown facade program. Now, 22 grants were authorized in the program. Now, Struthers will receive $1 million from a comprehensive and statewide Ohio Department of Transportation program to decrease petty pedestrian involved and road and off-road crashes, according to a local Vindicator report published June 15th. The money will also go towards the improvement of the city's corridors. That's why story number 5 made it this week, because there's a lot of improvement money being rationed out. Big headline. Story number 6. Interim superintendent announced. The city of Youngstown names Jeremy Batchelor to serve as interim superintendent to replace Justin Jennings, who decided to step down. The change is set to take effect July 1st. Now, since the recording of this show, there has been no statements reported on why Jennings decided to step down. But I'm sure as time goes on, he will make his statement. The story is still developing. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for Father's Day. Big time Father's Day. Remember when I thought I was going to be a father? It was a very exciting moment, and then I found out that sometimes the child does not have to be yours to be a father. Other kids may come along and just need your fatherly company and your fatherly love. So that's what I learned this Father's Day. Story number 7, 2-1 vote for combined water district. Trumbull County Commissioners voted 2-1, according to local reports, to combine what is now known as the Trumbull County Combined Water District, consisting of 7 districts. The resolution consists of the Bezetta, Champion, Braceville Township, Howland, Mineral Ridge, Mosquito Creek, Southeast, and Warren Township in what will be a sub-district venture charging different rates. Now, currently the rates will stay the same, but the result is what one report calls less government. That's what's got this story in, because this is a unique strategy to try to create less government on the waterways without changing the rates. That's why story number 7 almost made it to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top. Local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Even if you don't have children, sometimes it just takes that presence, that manly presence, to guide some kid to the promised land. Story number 8. New plan to aid East Palestine business. East Palestine of your country. Now, the attention now is, how do you assist a village that has suffered financially after a tragic train derailment? Let me get my words right. Well, here we go. Now, according to a local report, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine feel like they have the answer. They have launched a new emergency support program to assist East Palestine businesses impacted by the derailment. The program will provide 0% interest and forgivable loans to businesses to assist with ongoing expenses and recovery efforts associated with the train derailment. That's what's all in this. Now, the loans range from $10,000 to $1 million. Now, this story is still developing, and most of the details can be found in a local Vindicator report published June 13th. This is a nice story because East Palestine, just like every other community, East Palestine of your country, wants to rebound, and their businesses need money, and the people are kind of worried, so they're revving up the engines to try to send out some aid. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, it is Father's Day, and I have to thank all of the fathers who raised me, especially my dad who stepped in, my father, my stepdad. He stepped in, and when you're a kid, you're searching for love from both parents. And I did not know my dad actually, my stepdad actually cared about me until I got older. And the man never said anything when we were little. He would talk a little bit, but I never really actually held a conversation with him. And then when I grew older, I had this wild decision to fix the roof on my mom's house. And my dad was into construction. He had been in construction his entire life. And this man actually got up on the roof. It was probably about 75 degrees, and it was probably hotter than that. I think probably 90 degrees. And him and his crippled body, he was a little messed up after doing construction for so long, got up on the roof and with me, and never forget this. And we were determined to get this roof done, and we got it done, but it had some leaks because I had to go back to work. But the moral of the story is we got it done. And sometimes that's what it takes just to be a dad, you know. And he encouraged me every step of the way. He didn't complain. And I remember when I had to go through a bad relationship, came over his house, 3 o'clock in the morning. My dad was sitting right there, opened up his door. He had a few concubines, you know, they'd been married. My mom was one of his concubines. And that's what he did, but that's how it is. That's reality. You know, he had kids, been married a few times, but we always chatted. He always opened the door and we just talked. We became best friends. And one of the crazier sides to it is for some odd reason, some brothers, when they would see Farrakhan, and I never forget when I first seen my dad excited. And it was this Farrakhan. You know, Farrakhan is probably a bad example, but for some brothers, you know, I don't want to say that because I don't agree with everything Farrakhan says, but I think all men deserve their time in the spotlight. But some odd reason, for when brothers see Farrakhan, they get all excited. Well, I see my dad get excited when Farrakhan started talking about child support. And, Brother Farrakhan, we're gonna stop all child support for white brothers and black brothers. Oh, my dad's head almost exploded. Oh Lord, child support. And for Father's Day, all some dads want is to be able to spend time with their kids, all races, creeds, and colors. And even when Farrakhan is talking, when he starts talking about child support, every man listens. The moral of the story is that even the Nation of Islam brothers have to pay child support. Even Farrakhan. Oh, that's the joke, Nathaniel. If you're watching, even Farrakhan has to pay child support, baby. Whoo! It don't escape nobody. Thanks for raising me, Nathaniel. Thanks for raising me. Thanks for all the times. All my uncles, all I call them my fathers. Happy Father's Day, and I hope you like the joke because it was just a joke. If you see Farrakhan preaching about child support, then you come see me. I owe you some money. Dance with my father again. Well, folks, let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Farrakhan and child support. Oh boy, Nation of Islam. Story number 1. Sports gambling has the NFL on alert. Speaking of child support, one USA Today article is sold in the headline when labeling the NFL's enabling gambling program. My dad loves to gamble too. He's not gambling on NFL players. He's playing the lottery. He wants that big money. Now, the article comes after Indianapolis Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers added to a pile of violators when referring to the league's gambling policy. Now, at the moment, this seems like just the beginning of what a lot of people already predicted, and that is when you involve legal betting, you take away the pure vibes of a long-lasting sport, any sport. Now, this story is still developing, and analysts and money makers are all over this story because they want to see how this story comes out with all these gambling problems. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. And no, I was raised Christian, so I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam. I do have some Muslim friends, some Islamic friends, and they celebrate some of these holidays too. So that's why I thought that would be a good joke. Story number 2. The whistleblower. I know everything in life, but you have to have a sense of humor. I know religion is a touchy topic, but I try to have a sense of humor. Story number 2, the whistleblower. Why someone would give up the entire ship to spill the beans on a corrupt operation is the topic in this story. The story isn't political. It shines light on a long legacy of whistleblowers and how they've affected today's policies. Daniel Ellsberg is the face of the long article that deserves a read due to today's current climate when it comes to the too big to fail story. Now, the main question of if the whistleblower is a dying art or a dying subject or just a dying breed, period, or if the whistleblower is still needed is what got this story in, because we see some things happening in politics that have not happened in a long time. Now, Ellsberg was a key player in the revelation of the Watergate scandal. The story is still developing, and there's a lot of losers in this story, especially when it comes to whistleblowing. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. What are experts saying about migration? Political reports that Biden officials privately feared that a migrant surge could be just around the corner. Now, this story has everything to do with the end of the Trump era Title 42. Now, at the moment, the only real story has something, well, the only real story that's in this, the only meat of it, is that this has everything to do with the damage that has already been done when it comes to border issues. Especially when it comes to the Title 42, the damage is done. I mean, there's no undoing it, and what many feel is too hard to be undone. So people believe that, some people, I can't say all people, some people believe that we should just cave in and just make a deal with the people who have already crossed the border. This story is still developing. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Police continue to weather the storm. In these trying times, the ability to serve and protect gets harder and harder every day. After a New York City Police Department Commissioner, Keechant Sherwell, decided to step down after 18 months, the news has kept the duties and abilities for officers in the headlines. The ability to function in what appears to be a still rising, unstable country remains a hot topic among the everyday people. Now, over the years, police have been on the front lines of an unstable war to balance the scales of justice. As many justice figures continue to make headlines for good and bad stories, the growing task for law enforcement remains a challenge. Well, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 4, so don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor the program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week for you to keep you informed, folks. It is June 19th is tomorrow. That was the day that all slaves were freed in the United States. And it's also Father's Day. So this is a little time for everybody. I will take the time probably to remember all of my fathers, all of my uncles, and my dad who raised me, the man who raised me stepped in. And I will, like I said, all this life, I've had these uncles around. My Uncle Keith, who I went to go into the Navy. These uncles never took it easy on me. My Uncle Johnny passed away. We always played games. My grandfather, my Uncle Frank, taught me how to build and use my hands. My Uncle David taught me how to detail and clean cars. My Uncle Kevin, who loves all his kids, but he had some problems at the beginning, but he ends up settling. He always showed me, I got to hang out with a lot of his kids, and all of my uncles. If I didn't mention any of my uncles, I apologize. I'm pretty sure I mentioned all of them. These are all the men who played a part in my life. Nathaniel, and I got to actually spend time with my Uncle Keith, and he was real serious about his kids. I mean, he would have pictures of them and everything, and I never forget when he got into it with me because I didn't share with one of his kids. Hey, he actually went upstairs and got his weapon. Hey, you didn't share with Junior? I said, no, come on now. Come on, give Junior some of that candy now. Give him. And when you get a gun pulled out, to share some candy, you're going to share it. Go on, Junior, eat this candy. Brother lost his mind. But that was military life. You know, my Uncle Keith was a Navy man, so we was both gunners mates, so that was normal. You know, gunners mate, you'll get a gun pulled out on you. I don't want to spread the bad news, but that's what you do in the military. But those guys, they're all older now. And I thank God for all my uncles and my stepdad and my dad, my dad, and all of my friends. Happy Father's Day to all of you. We've all grown up. I magically somehow didn't end up with kids, but I have a lot of kids I consider my kids because I've been in their lives. But it's I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not a father, but I just give praise to them, you know, and thank God for all the blessings. I even made a song about it. There is a blessing even when you don't have a biological kid. You can be a father to the world, to the world. Woo! Happy Father's Day and happy June 19th. Thank God we don't hope and pray to God we never have to again and have to be slaves. That'd be terrible. Thank God we fought a war against it. Thank God we got freed. Happy Father's Day and happy June 19th. Well, let's waste no time, folks. Let's get out of here. Let's get to these stories. Story number 5. Story number 5. The COVID money mess. Uh-oh. There's going to be a lot of fathers behind bars. After the COVID wave, Fortune reports that $400 billion in COVID-19 aid money was either stolen or wasted. This includes Social Security fraudsters, soldiers, criminals, gangs, and even pastors. The story, although overlooked, is still grabbing some analysts' attention. Now, what the story reveals is what a lot of people already knew, and that is that Americans love money, and if it's given to them, they will take it and spend it on whatever they desire because the majority of Americans feel that this money is owed to them. Now, the Small Business Administration was hit the hardest. The story is still developing. So story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, Yellen's tactics to counter China. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says in a CNN business report that it is in the United States' best interest to maintain ties with China. She has also stated that she stated in the piece that the allegations of human rights abuses in China and questionable trade policies need to be addressed. The main focus of the article points out the hard and tangled bond seems to be hard to untangle bond between China and the United States. Now, her main talking points have to do with the business and economic benefits that Americans have had while doing business with China. Now, Yellen also points out how it would be disastrous if America stopped doing business with China. Her stance does not come without opposition. This is a total U-turn from the last administration, but is a story worth reading. Now, what got the story in is how Yellen wants the U.S. to lend more money to developing countries to counter China's global ambitions. Now, the key countries like Africa were also mentioned in the report. This is a key right here. Between 2008 and 2021, China spent $240 billion bailing out 22 countries. The report goes on to emphasize how many of these countries have been having a hard time paying China back. The story is still developing. Almost made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Moving along, keep you informed. Is the economy fixing fixing itself? Many say no, but some economists say yes. With inflation and rising costs on everyone's mind, the money game is real, folks. Just to inform you on how much of a roller coaster ride that we've been on, one U.S. inflation story says inflation is at its lowest point since 2021. That's a big U-turn. Now, they're saying that with fuel prices falling also. This BBC report has many economists and financial advisors stating what they feel is the obvious from past experiences, and that is the fact that, well, if you want to look at what's stating the obvious is the fact that with mobility and people still doing business, the numbers usually fix themselves. Now, the update comes as the central bank meets to debate whether it needs to do more to fight inflation. At 4% last checked, inflation is the lowest it has been since March of 2021. But in many parts of the economy, prices are still rising. The story is still developing. That's why story number 7 also made to the top this week. Big head. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made this week, this Father's Day, to keep you informed, is June 19th. If you celebrate story number 8, U.S. presidential business remains in the headlines. There's been a lot of attention on America's presidential business lately. The most recent news has to do with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden is under investigation for his ties in Ukraine, and Donald Trump will be the first U.S. president to be hit with a federal criminal indictment. The former president is facing 37 counts of illegally retaining classified documents and obstructing the government's efforts to get them back. Trump has pled not guilty and continues to gain support from his supporters. The former president plans to run again in the next presidential election. The story is still developing. Well, folks, those are our top 8 international and local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people in the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I am just the media, the man in the middle, navigating your stories to keep people informed. The people on the front lines, the media. If you wanted to show us some support here at Method, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week. Look through over 200 or more stories to keep you informed. Happy Father's Day and happy June 19th. Well, folks, I am out of here. Have a good week. Thank you for tuning into The Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.